Hey everybody, Justin here from the Hangfire Podcast. Well, it took me long enough, but I finally have my review of the album Hackney Diamonds. I'm not sure what else could be said about the album that's not already been said. I mean, there have been so many reviews of this album from a bunch of media and all over YouTube. There are people reviewing the album, so I probably won't be mentioning anything that's different from anyone else, but this is my point of view, so I thought it was worth sharing. So, it was tough to decide where to start on this album, but let me just flat out say that this is one fine, damn good Stones album. I mean, it's, in a word, overwhelming, really, to listen to this album because it is by no means an album I was expecting to get, at least this caliber of this value. And I'll get into specifics later, and I'm going to try to be as objective as possible without the hyperbole, but I have to say that as a Stones fan, it's hard for you to listen to this album and not be affected because, from my point of view, there's a lot of very cool, interesting, and deep stuff happening on this album that I don't know how you could miss if you were even just the smallest Stones fan. There was a reason why they chose Angry to be the lead single off the album because, in many ways, Angry represents what this album is, which is this big punch in the gut of energy and vitality that it is really undeniable. And throughout this whole time, I've been having a hard time figuring out where to put or how much emphasis to put on the fact that these guys are 80. Should that paint my opinion of the album? The answer is yes and no. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to take for account that here are these guys, a 61-year-old rock and roll band, and they put out something like this that is still reaching and still challenging for themselves and able to compete with everything else that's out there. I mean, it didn't have to be this good, but the album is good. Is it a stone cold classic? I wouldn't say that it is. I mean, I'd say it's a very, very good album. I mean, it exceeded my expectations. I was a bit worried about what the album would turn out to be after all this time, but it's clear that it was worth the wait. Like I said, in a nutshell, I would put the album as overwhelming, and that's in a good way. But also, I would describe it as very, very focused. And at the front of the helm is Mick Jagger, who is absolutely the MVP of the album, and probably along with Andrew Watt, the producer, who they both absolutely nailed what the task was, which was how do you come up with a damn good Stones album in the year 2023? And, you were going to offend a percentage of the fan base with this. There's no doubt. I mean, how can you not after 60 years of existing? You are bound to offend the purists and the traditionalists, and you're bound to seduce the loyal fans and the ones that'll just eat anything up. The good news is I think this album offers something for everybody. There are the large songs that are meant to grab your attention, meant to, shake you. But then there are also smaller moments. And dare I say, at least by Stone standards, some vulnerable moments. And that's what I came away with, was that I was shocked to find myself affected by these songs. I can't help but go back to my conversation that I had with Paulina Almira, who is the artist behind Hackney Diamonds. And she told me that while she was working in pre-production for this project, the prompts and the briefs that she had gotten from the Stones on how to approach this artwork was that the album was a very emotional album. And now that I've heard it in full, I can totally see how they would categorize it that way. And I think it was inevitable. I mean, this album was going to be emotional anyway. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that this album is as emotional as it is, coming right after the loss of Charlie Watts. Sure, there are moments in the Stones catalog that have these moments of sentimentality or a softness or a tenderness or a longing or a vulnerability, but very few full albums carry that emotion throughout the entire album like this one. So that's why I think this is so special. Another thing that really caught my attention on this album is Jagger's lyrics. I think this is some of his best work in a long time. I can't recall him being as engaged and as focused with the writing like this in a long time. There aren't many songs on A Bigger Bang that comes to mind that approach this level of care into the lyrics. And I mean, the whole song, Depending on You, I think is one of Mick's best moments ever. And, you know, it's tricky to want to project or want to see things that may not be there, but you know, you can't help it as a listener. And when you look through the lyrics of Depending on You, I think there's some very huge things being revealed in there. I mean, now she's giving her love to somebody new. I invented the game, but I lost like a fool. Now I'm too young for dying and too old to lose. Again, I don't want to project too much onto this, but I mean, for Mick Jagger to sing, I'm too young for dying, too old to lose, that is a pretty striking moment, to say the least, at least for me. So I am very impressed with the lyrics on a lot of these songs, but not all of them are great. But the best ones, like this one and another one, Whole Wide World, I think are phenomenal. I mean, this album is filled with moments, like I was telling you, right? And there is no other bigger moment than having Paul McCartney on a song on this album, on the song Bite My Head Off. And he plays this fantastically wicked bass part, which includes a little bit of a solo on there, which is so fun and so great. And I don't know, it's just a great little snapshot. And I'm just glad it happened. I thought Elton John's contributions were very subtle. I could hear him best on the song Live by the Sword, which is not one of my favorite songs on the album. And just like all the classic Stones albums of the past, the best ones really offer a smattering of different styles and genres in one. And here we definitely get that in the rock songs and the high energy rock punk songs like Bite My Head Off. And then you've got the country songs like Dreamy Skies and Depending on You. And then you've got the more dancey, club ready track like Mess It Up. And then you've got the blues like Rolling Stone Blues. I mean, it's got something for everybody, which is what makes this album work so well. I think the sequencing is very smart and very effective. Side A really works as this huge 5-song punch right from the get-go of strong energy and good writing for the most part on that side. One of the album's strengths is that it's a very dynamic album. So here, Dreamy Skies offers finally a break from that intensity of the first 5 songs. And now, just like the song says, Mick wants to get away from it all, you know, and that's what this song is. It's a little bit of a break from that intensity that we've experienced so far, and is just one of those tracks where this is Stones 101 right here. Here you've got Keith on that open G guitar, Ronnie on the dobro, and you can hear the room finally. You can hear a personality in the room. There's air around the instruments, which makes that track so special because the music can finally breathe, and it's a nice break. So there are moments of the 100% classic sounding Stones in moments like that. And then next thing you know it, side B starts off with Mess It Up, which might be my one of my top 3 songs on the album. And the moment Charlie Watts comes in, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, because every time he does, you can't help but get emotional a little bit, because it's our guy right there, and he's laying it down just like he always can. And you know, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if you don't get the song or you don't think it's anything special, because it's all of Charlie Watts' greatness, which is he can get you to stand up and move around and dance, and it's got all the right things about it. And I can't wait for that to be the single, because I want people to really experience that song just like they all heard Angry. I can't wait for people to listen and celebrate Mess It Up. But so many emotions come up when you're listening to this album. Emotions because of the song and the content, and because you hear some great moments like the band cooking it and Charlie Watts returning to your speakers and hearing him bust through that song with that classic sound. And, you know, Keith Richards said in an interview recently that you know it's Charlie the moment you hear that first snare hit, and it's true. And, you know, I'm gushing over this song, I admit. So anyway, my point is that song kicks off side B, and side B is yet another mini album. They're really like 2 albums in one. And so side B is kicked off by the return of Charlie Watts, and the album kind of flows through the end. And I do find this area right here to be getting to be a little wobbly, a little soft. I'm still finding my way around the song Live by the Sword, but I think it could have been left off the album and it would have just made the album even tighter and stronger. I'm kind of disappointed that they chose this track for Bill Wyman to guest on it. I think I would have preferred Bill Wyman on Mess It Up, for example. Also, Driving Me Too Hard I find to be a little bit mushy. Luckily, they kind of rebound with Keith's great lead vocal with Tell Me Straight, probably one of his best solo lead songs on a Stones album in a while. I mean, I was a fan of Infamy and A Bigger Bang, but it is a bit more of a jam more than a song. This is a song. It's well written. Love the lyrics, love the playfulness of the contradictions. It almost sounds like a Keith solo track, meaning like from his solo career, like this could have been like a Talk Is Cheap or something. It's got such a riff, and the song itself is very dissonant in the verses, and then you get into a more honed in sound on the choruses, which has that country flavor with Keith's classic piano fills that he adds on that kind of little bit country honky-tonkish kind of piano vibe that he adds to it. But this side really needed this song, and it's great. Needless to say, I mean, I don't need to talk about Sweet Sounds of Heaven. And for the people who have watched my channel before know that this moment is a big deal for me because I finally got to hear Sweet Sounds of Heaven. I had made sure not to hear it until the whole album was in my hands, so I finally got to hear it. And yeah, it's as great as everyone said it was. And it really is a very special, unique moment in the album and in the Stones catalog because it is such a crescendo and such a climax to this. It really just is this outburst of, again, emotion. And Lady Gaga sings the hell out of it, sounds fantastic on it. So does Stevie Wonder. And again, Mick Jagger is the MVP on this track, completely leading the way with a fantastic vocal performance, really. And on that note, for anyone who was critical or not happy with the auto-tune elements in a song like Angry, for example, that's okay. Mick Jagger completely shows everyone what he can do on this track. So yeah, again, I just want to point people to this song if you have doubts about Mick Jagger's so-called ability today to sing. All you need to do is listen to this song and realize that your doubts are unfounded. To close this review, I'm mentioning the song that closes the album, which is absolute perfection in every way. I can't say anything more about that last song, which is To Die For, really. I mean, I would say go out and buy this album just for that last track, which is super special to hear just Keith Richards and Mick Jagger playing this song, the Muddy Waters classic Rolling Stone Blues. Keith playing this rhythm, which is a very tough thing to play. I mean, for him to be laying down this very strong rhythm while still adding these intricate details and fills that are kind of more Robert Johnson style kind of fills along the way is incredibly impressive. And you couple that with Mick Jagger's impeccable performance, really channeling some Muddy Waters greatness there. I mean, I have to throw in, there's only two people on that track, but I've got to throw in Andrew Watt in there as well for capturing that in that way. I was reading in the Rolling Stone article that came out about a month ago about the making of this album, and I believe that it was there where Andrew Watt explained the lengths they went to capture that recording and how tricky it was to capture just on a technical level. And I could guess how tricky that was. I mean, you listen to that recording and it's just Keith and Mick, and Keith is, I believe, on a semi-hollow guitar, and it's a microphone on Mick Jagger for his vocal, and he's playing harmonica as well. So it's a very sparse production, yet it's extremely full, very big. It's almost in IMAX size, considering how small of a song that it is. So I have to give props to Andrew Watt for capturing that perfectly, because that is a beautiful moment that ends the album. So talk about cherry on tops, you can't get any better than that one. As you can tell, I really like the album. I have some issues with, like I said, some of the songs around the middle towards the end. And sure, the production can be a little intense and it can be a little claustrophobic. I should admit that even after my first listen, I was a little skeptical of it because the album doesn't necessarily deliver in the same way Stones albums have in the past, which, mind you, is the first trap you find yourself in when you're listening to a Stones album, is that you're always fighting your expectations with what they deliver. And that, I think, is a mistake, is that, the Stones, they have their core elements, their core identity, but at the same time, they don't see themselves as, museum pieces and, defenders of the flame for music from the 60s and 70s, or, defenders of blues. They are at the same time still engaged songwriters. And if they want to make a album or a song that is able to compete, because this is a business, compete with everyone that's out there, there's going to be some modifications and changes to the original recipe. So mind you, those are some of the challenges that are present when you're listening to a new Stones album. My point is, I found myself in that exact trap after my first listen, because I was wondering to myself, wait a minute, where's Keith in all this? Is Keith here? Because I was sort of missing a little bit of the huge, open G riffs and the open G, vibe on a lot of songs. This is a very, like I said earlier, focused album. So there aren't moments of Keith riffing away. You're not going to find something like on Voodoo Lounge. You had, You Got Me Rocking and Love Is Strong, or Too Tight, or going back all the way to, Dance Little Sister, if I want to take an extreme example. But my point is, a very Keith, centric groove. But that doesn't mean that Keith is missing. I've been reading reviews, people labeling this as basically a mixed solo album. I think that's a very sloppy miscategorization of the album. Keith is very much present, but not in the usual places that we're used to. Like I said, there aren't going to be the big riffs, but there are still a lot of Keith riffs on the album. I mean, that's him starting off Get Close, a very dark and mysterious riff that's very, very enticing, makes you want to lean into the song. Also on Whole Wide World, that's him kind of poking through with that kind of phaser guitar. Dreamy Skies, he's on the open G again, putting in all those fantastic country licks. And don't forget, Keith plays bass on a lot of these tracks. He plays on Angry, Get Close, Dreamy Skies, Tell Me Straight. I mean, that's pretty cool. The contributions may not be like what we're used to, but the contributions are potent nevertheless, between the bass tracks and the fantastic harmony vocal on Dreamy Skies, which again is another great Mick Jagger, Keith Richards moment. I've been saying so many times in the past that the Mick Jagger, Keith Richards blend is hugely underrated, and it's back again on that song, as it is in the song Tell Me Straight, with Keith singing lead and Mick singing harmony, backing Keith up. I mean, again, there are so many great moments sprinkled throughout the album. It's totally there, and it's there if you're open to them. So I hope that something like the production isn't something that's going to deter you away from this album, because the production is inevitable. They were going to go a slick, modern route, but underneath all that, this album has heart, and it's hard to overlook that. I don't think there has been an album like this that offered as much power and intensity, but also balance, poignancy, and sensitivity like it does here. Rounding out my top 3 songs of the album, at least today, is Depending on You, Whole Wide World, and Mess It Up. I think those 3 are worth the price of admission alone. People have been wondering, especially when you hear a song like Rolling Stone Blues, is this the final Stones album? Well, we know in recent months that Mick's explained that they already have a good chunk of songs ready for the next album, which came out of these sessions. So it's very possible we can see a follow-up in the near future. But my feeling is that the Stones will never say if this is the final anything, final album, final tour, final show. You'll never hear them say that. You'll know it's final after it's over and it's clear. This is likely not their last album, but just in case, and sadly if it is, it's a damn good one to end on. In closing, the album for me is a 4 out of 5. It's a winner by all accounts, and one for the books. Okay, that's all I have for now. Make sure you keep track for the rest of the month because I'm going to be devoting more videos to Hackney Diamonds. I'm going to have some additional review sessions with some special guests coming in the future that are in a roundtable format. One that's dropping at the end of this week. So make sure you hit subscribe so you can see when those go up. Thanks for watching Hangfire, and we'll see you next time.